Mr. Bill Busch. What's up, Coach?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Bush, man, what's good, bro?
Oh, it's good to talk to you guys right now. I was just doing some stuff, listening to the show, trying to always listen to it as much as possible like that. I'd check in a little bit, and I thought I wanted to talk a little old school spring game, back when you guys played. back when stuff was real.
Hey,
not that it's not real now, but it was different. I remember Jay. Yeah, I was coaching Kenny at the time because I was a graduate assistant coach of the DBs.
Okay.
And I told him before the game, I said, hey, it's going to be live tackling. And he got all upset. He didn't want to go live.
Oh, for real?
So,
Kenny tried to act like he was a hard corner.
Don't you let that man pull. You see he's laughing. You see he's laughing.
Hey, Kenny said he was a hard cloud corner, coach. Now we know he was a he was a cover corner, huh?
No.
Tell you what, he would put his face in the fan. There was never an issue with toughness or contact with Kenny Wilhite. That's for sure. That was not a thing we had to worry about too much like that. And he made the game-winning interception against Oklahoma, which I'm sure he brings up on the show.
No, I do not. No, I do not. Nope.
Coach, I wanted to ask you
ahead,
about back then versus obviously the rules changed, the kids have changed, and the situation has changed. Because back then, obviously, as a coaching staff, you didn't have to, really wasn't broadcast on CBS, so everybody could watch what you were doing. Now, I'm sure they could have some eyes in the sky, but they would really have to work hard to come and, kind of get a tip on what you're doing. But take me back to being in those staff meetings, because I felt like when, at least when, obviously when Kenny and I were in spring ball, that jobs were won and lost, with the spring game. First, talk about that,
Jay.
and talk about before and after. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was in the staff as we would break things up, and there is a difference. Let's just trust me. I've been part of it on both sides with the numbers, and right now you just don't have the numbers with what we're like when both you greats were playing.
Right.
We're just offensive linemen, just a number of people. There's generally enough skilled people to play a lot more. For the spring game, it's not quite the same, but there were games. I mean, it was on the line. Let's go out. Let's get good on. It wouldn't be good on good to be a red-white, but there was really good players on both sides, and it's also a chance to really stand out in that game. And the thing that they're doing now, when I say they, Nebraska, with the quarterbacks being live, as you guys know, you guys never scrimmage when the quarterbacks weren't live.
Right.
And so that was. Go ahead, Jay.
I wanted to ask you, being a part of obviously LSU, winning. I mean, obviously being a part of the staff last year. How close can a program get to being as physical as they need to be in the spring and fall? Because to change the identity and mindset of a program, you know what I mean? Like when you come in as a new staff. Do you think it's better to come in and have an extremely physical and hard spring camp, the first one, or do you work up to it based on what they can take?
I think you want to do what they can take, but it's like anything. It's just like I heard Coach Wilhite talking about how he's dealing with some of his players, right from the start. Well, you better have things buttoned up and disciplined and how you want to have them done and the physicality. I've always felt, Jay, that the physicality when you're going against each other, it's all about the intensity during that rep. So sometimes you can limit the reps if you want to have less reps, but don't limit the intensity during those 4 seconds. And so if it's inside run drill or whatever drill it's going to be, those drills, because you can't do those drills. Kenny was on the fringe just because he was a corner, so he wasn't in it quite as much as you were every snap, Jay. But as well as I do is that you don't get any better with a 74% inside run drill.
Yeah. I wish Coach Osborne had a little bit more 74% into his repertoire, but really, I've been down to Alabama, and that's essentially, and I'm sure you guys did at LSU. Whereas the intensity is real high, but it's for very short periods of time. So I mean, that's just something that is interesting for people out there. That wonder what you can and can't do. I want to ask you when you watch the spring game, Saturday, what from a coach's perspective, and being successful and know what it takes, and actually knowing what this team needs to be successful, right? I mean, right? And I mean,
Sure.
and what are you going to be looking for to possibly see a difference and be like, yeah, okay, I could see, at least what they're doing, or the possibility that they've gotten better here. What is a position group, or is it attention to detail? Is it a body types, or what do you think you're going to be looking for?
I know that the thing that would always stood out to me the most, Jay, would be just the overall picture and how crisp it is. And I'm talking about being lined up right. All 22 guys ready to play. They're getting plays signaled in. Substitutions are in and out, very crisp. Everything is very clean. You don't see palms up from someone on the field or on the sideline. All those things. I know that's what I always, was my biggest thing that I wanted to have happen. Same way if there was a period that I was in charge of, say when it was special teams, or then when Kenny came to help me when I was the defensive coordinator, you want to make sure that if people came and watched you practice, that they didn't talk about your scheme. They didn't talk about, I like that player. They just talk about how, Coach, I like how you practice, which means when the horn blows, we used to always say transition's part of the drill. So everything I look at, because very high functioning teams function very well in that area. That just the sloppiness and the little things are the things that you'll look for the most. And I know that was something that on the great staffs I was on, that we always was a huge strain to try to get that done. And I know, Coach Wilhite will be doing that with his team now on just how important that is. So I'll look at the overall picture. There's always going to be some unique things on spring game. If somebody has to change sides, sometimes there's somebody at halftime has to change sides because of position or different things like that might come up. So that's not a negative with that. But you just want to see how clean they are, how fast you get lined up, and then pre-snap penalties, which means anything that that you can control. Penalties are going to happen within the game. There's going to be a hold. There's going to be a PI. I want to see pre-snap like that. So there's no offsides. There's no illegal motion. There's none of those situations. There's no substitution errors. Those are things that you generally stand out with really good football teams. And I'm sure they'll look that way.
Hey, Busch, man,
yeah.
with you being a special teams guy, is there anything special teams wise that you'll be looking for? Whether it's the crispness of the snap to kick, the protection part of it on the punt team, and just anything special teams wise that you'll be looking for.
Without knowing the format, Kenny,
Mm-hmm.
I would say I would look the most on just on the ball strikers, on the kickers and punters,
Mm-hmm.
how well they're operating with that, because you just don't know how it's going to be, if they're going to be live kickoffs. That will be something you have to have a discussion on after the game to be able to see how that part of it gets done. But I would say the same thing. If there is a full live kickoff, you just want to see great timing on the kickoff team. You want to see assignment on the kickoff return team of ID and the right people. But you really want to see if they can punt the ball and if they can kick the ball. And it sounds like, if it stays with what they're saying right now, that the weather is going to be 48, probably a little bit of wind. Well, guess what? That's just the way it is.
Yep.
When you play here in the fall.
Yep.
And so that's something that was always, you're talking to your specialist all the time. I know you were always out there at practice games. That anytime we had any form of weather, we never came inside for anything.
You were out
there. We
there.
just kicked in it the whole time. It's kind of the Tiger Woods playing golf in the rain type of thing, to try to get your mind right to what it feels like. Jay's a great golfer. It's not fun to stand in the tee box with a 30-mile-an-hour wind in your face. And so when you're the kickoff guy or the kicker and that's going on, that takes a lot of mental toughness to be able to strike the ball good. So I'd look for those people that are going to be putting their foot on the ball, be something will stand out the most.
One more question. I'm sure you've been asked this 1,000,001 times, but being inside, watching you work, I've known you for a long time.
Old roommate.
Yeah.
Old roommates, the Mexico State coaching staff.
When you got that call that you were going to be promoted to the defense coordinator, what went through your mind? And that's the first question. What went through your mind? And secondly, what did you want to get across to the defensive guys that they could buy into what you were going to try to get them to do?
Well, a couple things. The first thing was when Mickey said, I said, no, I'm good. And then he said, well, it's not really an option. And so I said, okay. And the first thing I did is I wanted to make sure our staff was in a good frame of mind, which you were. And then, one of the most important things was I talked to Mickey about it. So I said, I know Kenny can't coach on the field, but I just need him in the room with me. I said, so, obviously that's why you were in the room with me and sat right next to me in all of our meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big plus just because you knew me so well. And I think that was a big thing to really help me out. And then, the first meeting I know you were into, we went through and said, let's make sure we're not missing a player, went through every player. And then I went through exactly what had to happen as a staff for us defensive staff to stay together and the why, because the first thing I wanted to make sure it didn't happen was any sort of infighting or disagreements within the staff. And then if you remember, Kenny, I said, we're changing everything.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't know the defense and I can't call somebody else's defense because I don't know how to fix it if it's broke.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to change everything. If there's something that's the same, I changed and I learned the verbiage of what it was so the young men didn't have to learn it different. And so that was the part and then that was able to be able to do that. And then practice was good. It was crisp, and they really bought into the total phase. I think it helped when we split things up in the back end and with the defensive backs and had two of us coaching back there. I think that was a big advantage for us. And then the kids were just phenomenal. I mean, it was like I said, I've been on a lot of teams down there at Nebraska that were unreal, played for a national championship there, won a national championship. And our walkthrough is, I think you agree with me, Kenny, that our walkthrough against Iowa was just as good as the walkthrough that we had against Clemson for the national championship game.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was the kids were that locked into what they had to do. Here's the check. If they do this, here's what we're going to do. Okay, the next third down, anticipate this. And we go through our movement that we did in our walkthrough for about 20, 25 minutes, and it was unreal. So just it's all the kids. It was all the kids. And obviously I owe you, so much for what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And just my respect for you two guys, for what you guys have done for your career. And I know what you played in at Nebraska at the time. And so hearing you guys on the radio is a lot of fun. That's why I called in. But like I said, I got so much respect for both of you former black shirts and being part of the black shirts at one time. But you two guys are everything of what those of what the Bones were meant to be. And I appreciate you guys a bunch. Thanks for having me on.
Hold on. You can't go off like that. You can't cut us off like that. Hey, first and foremost, I want to truly thank you. You were my coach. You believed in me. You gave me a lot of crap. You still give me a lot of crap. I was in a bad place. New Mexico State, you took me in. You got me through that. You taught me how to be a coach. And then this year, especially this year, watching you work and when you took over and how the kids responded to you, that's just a testament to you, your passion for the game, the coaching profession. And truly, you'll never find another guy, maybe myself, but that truly believes in the brand like you do. And
I appreciate that.
And I want to thank you.
And I do believe in those Huskers.
I know.
Like I said, that's why you'll hear nothing but positive things out of me, because you can't be up in front of the media. And like you guys know, Jay knows this from being in front of the media so many times in different leagues, and you in the CFL, Kenny, that you can't get in front of the media and say how much you love this place, and then all of a sudden don't get retained and get let go, and then be like, this place sucks. Exactly. I know that's just not how it works.
Exactly.
And so I appreciate that like that. I remember one time, Jay, Kenny was just he was upset. He had a lot of things going on. He was just upset like that. So we were living together. And so that's back when there was like no cell phones, anything like that. And so I slept on the floor outside of Kenny's room, make sure he didn't leave that night.
He got me through. Jay, if I told you, he got me through a really, really tough time in my life. You done playing, you don't know what you want to do,
right? And
then you having a lot of family issues,
right?
And
and
it got me in a place that where,
I mean, I think
he was there.
Yeah, I think that's just the Nebraska way.
Yes.
We talk about the Nebraska way. you look out for each other, you do what you can, you never let anybody go. And that's when people say it's different in Nebraska. When I always say coaching here is different, you got to be like, if you are not like that,
Yes.
I do not care if you have a couple like flash in the pan, you just won't, because that's what makes Nebraska special. I want to ask you this, Coach, before we let you go.
Sure.
You know Kenny is as good as I do, probably better, because you coached him. Give me two. I already know the answers, right? I already know the answers, okay? But I want you, from a coach's perspective and somebody that's coached him, seen him grow as a coach, give me 2 or 3 things that he's going to need to know, and what you know that he's going to do well at his personality to be successful as he takes on this next job as a head coach.
Well, the first thing is going to be with the great staffs that I've been on, and the Coach Osborne. I've been on numerous ones on this. I'm not going to name everyone, but total alignment is the first thing. And that means from your coaching staff, from the head coach down to the coaching staff, to the trainers, to the players, total alignment. There are no independent contractors in his program, and there won't be, but that is, it always sounds easy to say that, Jay, but it's hard.
It's the hardest thing.
It's hard to have total alignment, and everyone's like, this is who's in charge, this who handles this part of it. Everyone's in total alignment of what we're trying to get done. That part is really hard to do, but Kenny will have a great plan to be able to do that. The next one is to be where the great coaches I've been around, and I've heard it, that I know this is Saban to a T, is time management. They talk about Saban's like his staff meeting starts at 7:30 every morning. No one shows up in the room until 7:28, but at 7:29, 59, that meeting's starting, and it's efficient. And then they're off to the next thing and the next thing. The guys I know that have worked for Saban, and when I worked for Urban Meyer was like this. Kyle Whittingham was like this. Coach Ogeron was like this. The time when it was so of the essence that nothing was wasted. It wasn't cool and like that. The head coach starts the meeting. Here's what we're getting done. Here's what we're getting accomplished. Because you can waste so much time and just all of a sudden just be like, we could have had this done sooner, or just more efficiently. So time will be the really big one. And then trying to figure out the most of with your players is going to be, who are your true football players? And sometimes you can get caught up with he's interesting, he's got some talent. How much do I give? Until all of a sudden, then the rubber has to hit the road to make sure that you have like that. Because sometimes you get caught up. He's pretty talented, but then is he going to be enough? Is that going to hold true to hold the full team together as a unit, and to be able to get those guys all underneath one umbrella? So that'd probably be the 3 things, which he has all those in his repertoire. So I think he'll crush it in that area.
That's good. I couldn't agree more, man. I just think the attention to detail, and then I think the biggest thing in this day and age, along with you, is that I always said this, that when I went to the NFL, it was a disappointment from the coaching, because I had such good coaches at Nebraska. I think around the college profession, since we're talking about college, I think there's a lack of guys that really want to coach for the right reasons. You two happen to be coaching and in the business for the right reasons. So with that being said, you guys are already 8 steps ahead on a 10-step program to get there. So that alone, I know Kenny would be successful. We appreciate you coming on. We're gonna have to start doing some stuff here in the future. I'd love to. Anybody that gets up like early, like Bill Busch, like I do, and Bill Busch is up, is always a kid in mind, because then I know I got somebody I could text that early. So
I like, yeah. Between the 3 of us like that, we're never like in a group text. But I'm texting Kenny all the time. I'm texting Jay all the time.
Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to bring up to ask both of you, and I think this has been, I want to say it's a problem, but I think there's been something, I think it's made like a miraculous comeback here, maybe in the last year or two, maybe, is that just that there was so much, put on during your guys' time and the great success, right? And then there's been different coaches, but these guys are all Huskers. Has that been getting better with guys that played for Callahan, that played for Bo, that played, for Riley, that played, for Scott, all those guys for us right there? Because no matter how it comes out, it's Nebraska, and it's the same thing. There hasn't been some of the great success, but do you guys think that that's gotten itself in a little bit of better way? Because I always thought it was a little fragmented at times when different coaches came through on how you were looked at being what era you played.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. me again. 9 years. You were there before me, a couple of years with Callahan, but just being there those 9 years, there's a disconnect. Jay noticed it. A lot of former players come back, and you noticed it since you've been back. But it's gotten better, but it can be a lot better. Like you said, it's if it's going to be the Nebraska way, then
you can't change
because everyone played with the same love and passion.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes the results were not the same as some of the things that you guys experienced.
Exactly.
At that time. But I do think it's getting better. I felt that through the Cole Pensick thing, Kenny, with that
yes.
group of people throughout. I felt that there's a lot of good things, but I know this, like I said, I can't be a bigger Nebraska fan. I'll always be that. And like I said, like that, to have you guys as friends is unreal, because the listeners, they still don't grasp how good both of you were and how you did everything the right way. And that's the stuff that matters the most. So there's a lot of you, but I really enjoyed both of you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it, coach, man. And I'm gonna be texting you early. I gotta get up at 3:30, man. I gotta be the first one.
Well, y'all can have all of that. Text me.
No.
Text me
coach,
after 7 a.m.
Text him early.
Text me after
he gotta get on
a.m.
the head coaching hours.
Yeah, you're right. That doesn't start until May, though.
Okay, we're gonna break you in. We're gonna break you in.
That doesn't start till May 30th.
I get nowhere to go.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it, Coach, man. Enjoy your rest of your night. Watch some basketball. We'll be right back.
Tell the family I said hi, brother.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you.